We were just crazy enough to try it. That's the Atlanta way.
You really start to open your eyes to the reality of what Atlanta was. And this sentence, the Atlanta way. Now we have team members in India and all across the world. Can you give us some context of what does that really mean, especially growing up?
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a slogan, you kind of hear it, but then is there actually a truth and reality to what you said as you grew up and kind of seeing the transformation of the city? Because really, as you grew up and actually after college and coming back, I mean, it was right before the Olympics, right? So there's this in my opinion, from the outside world looking in, Atlanta's a town. Post-Olympics, Atlanta is a global international city. So give us kind of the pre and post experience from that standpoint.
Atlanta has an audacity about it that I think is so impressive. As JP said a long time ago, I mean, when I was born in 1969, we were just a southern town. The idea that we would build the airport that we have today, it didn't even make sense. Like, why? And it becomes the world's largest airport. The idea that we would host an Olympics when a lot of people from Chicago and New York had never been to Atlanta. They must have thought, are you hillbillies crazy? We were just crazy enough to try it. That's the Atlanta way, you know? And so you can go through each decade. You want to talk about Andy Young, and you want to talk about, I mean, there's just one, each decade has had its series of leaders who have been audacious and brave and said, why not? And so I think that that theme has woven itself through Atlanta's history, and I still think it's really present today. It's why in some ways I think this is such a great place for entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you something, JP, outside of Atlanta, you bring up an interesting point, how Savannah is such an engine to Atlanta's economy, and they're really so intertwined now from a logistics point of view and the port and all that. But what's interesting is when I first graduated college in the 90s, and I went to school in Boston, I come back to the South, I get my first job in television, and I go to Albany, Georgia. Now, Albany, Georgia may as well be another country from Atlanta in 1991, right? And in South Georgia, it was kinda like, "Oh god, Atlanta, it's scary, it's traffic, I don't wanna be there," right? But what's changed since then, when I go around the state and I have a lot of our customers, our members, as we call them, our clients, is that the thread of commonality, which I think we have a responsibility as Atlantans to lean into when you meet people that are not in your own neighborhood or not in this building and you're out traveling, actually look at somebody and I challenge you to think to yourself, what's that person's entrepreneurial story? What's that person's grit? Because I think what really binds all of us, whether you're talking about Atlanta, Georgia, and beyond, it is about the you know, let me digress. When you look at hiring talent, we're in a firm that's growing so much right now that we're looking at hiring people. And when you look at hiring, we always ask ourselves, only 10% at best of your candidates are gonna be highly talented and highly coachable. That's really rare, and you could spend 3 years trying to find that. What you really want is coachable and gritty. That's really what you're after. And so my point on this story is when you all are out in the world and you're growing in your industries and your businesses, I would challenge yourself to meet people, look them in the eyes, have a human moment, and find out their story. Because almost all successful people have a commonality in at one point they were coachable, disciplined, and they're all gritty.